Okay. Rep.
Okay, so I want to welcome everybody to the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for July the 31st. It's dead on 2:30 according to my clock. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. Do we have any additions or deletions to be made to the agenda?
No. I have one miscellaneous item which I think is not on the list, which is talking about a Heritage Advisory Committee kind of educational retreat or something like that. I know we've talked about it before, but I meant to put it under miscellaneous and I didn't.
So we can add that to that spot.
Thanks, Brian.
So if there's nothing else, then I guess we need a motion to approve the agenda. Andrew, thank you. And all in favor? Okay, done. Motion to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting from June the 26th, 2025. Were there any questions, comments, or changes to be made to the minutes? Not hearing a lot of anything, so I assume they look good as far as everybody's concerned. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I thought they looked fine,
Right.
Brian. So if you wanted some feedback.
Well, thanks. And you're making the motion to approve?
Yes, please.
Okay, so all in favor? Done. Declarations of interest, do we have any? Yeah, didn't think so. We're chugging right along then. Item 7.1, the downtown HCD.
Sorry, Brian, to interrupt. My speaker was off. I have an interest in the St. Paul property in 7.2.
Okay. Item 7.1, the downtown HCD study decision and next steps. So James and Lauren, take it away.
Just going to set up this and then I will start my spiel. Everyone can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So the council decision on the downtown HCD study. As everyone knows, James and I were at the July 14th council meeting. We provided open remarks and were there to answer questions. And also we had 11 public delegations. And the intent was to make a decision on the state of and the conclusion of the downtown HCD study and whether or not it was going to move forward. So the staff motion was ultimately moved, and council decided to, or it was lost. So just to remind everyone, the motion was that City Council approve the proposed boundary for the downtown Heritage Conservation District as depicted in Appendix 1 and direct staff and the city's consultants to proceed with the plan phase for the entire study area, and that staff be directed to report back on tax rebate and grant incentive programs that can be implemented in tandem with the implementation of the downtown Heritage Conservation District. So that motion lost. Instead, the council proposed an alternative motion, and that motion was that a task force be established, and that the terms of reference include representatives of key stakeholder groups to identify strategies for addressing downtown heritage issues that were identified in the Stantec report, with a focus on the preservation of unique characteristics of the downtown core, and that motion was carried. So as of right now, we're not moving forward with the downtown HCD plan phase, and instead, staff has been directed to work with counselors and with other city staff to put together the terms of reference and make a report to council on the creation of a downtown heritage task force. So the Downtown Heritage Task Force, according to council direction, will be established. Will include that key stakeholder representation, including council members, members with professional and technical expertise, and at least one member from the Heritage Advisory Committee and the Downtown BIA. We are still working with counselors and with senior staff to put together that terms reference. Hello, Maria's here. Let me just, oh, I can do it later. So that is still underway. But we know that it will be tasked with developing strategies to preserve the unique heritage character of the downtown core, and will reference and build upon the findings that were presented in the downtown HCD study. So James and I are currently working on a council report and a terms of reference. This is in development, and the intent is to bring this to the September 9th council meeting. Wrong way. So I don't know if we want to take a pause here and just have a little bit of conversation before we talk about next steps, or if anyone has any questions or if there's anything else folks want to discuss. But I'm open to that.
I see Mark's hand is up.
Yeah, thanks. I'm wondering if this will be put on the table again in the future, or is it just kiboshed completely? How does that work? Can we revisit that?
Yeah, so the study is still good and will still be good, as a document for a while. It may need to be updated if council ever decides to, look into a possible HCD again. Right now, like with the decision as it is, in order to reopen a council decision, I think they need a 2/3 vote to reopen something like this. And so you
Okay.
need the vast majority of council to be in alignment to re-examine downtown as the entire downtown area as an HCD. I think there is some possibility of looking at specific areas with like sub areas, because the motion that was made was looking at the entire area. But I do think they'll need that 2/3 majority to look at to consider moving forward with the plan phase again.
Okay, so if everyone finds new evidence that they agree with, or it's like, oh, maybe this was a good idea after all, and everyone agrees, it could be opened up
I
soon or in a couple of years, who knows, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, through the chair, yeah, that is always a possibility. I think that this task force, definitely, there's the opportunity to kind of explore all of the options. The intent is to explore all the options in the Stantec report, and that does include the HCD. So I anticipate the task force will make a recommendation to council, and I think, if something changes or they make a different recommendation, that is a possibility. I don't know how likely that is, but it's not a zero chance.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I mean, that was, of course, one of the concerns that I had was, with the HCD vote, failing at council, the length of time that it takes to, create terms of reference for the task force, and by the time it's up and running and we're meeting and making recommendations, I mean, the clock is ticking towards the January 2027 deadline. So I mean, it's valuable time that we're going to be losing. And in the meantime, if it falls on the shoulders of the Heritage Committee to start doing individual designations, when you look at the number of buildings that we've looked at that our subcommittee has looked at so far, which is just like about 10 of them. And we're only getting to the point now where we're ready to start bringing some of those forward to council. I mean, it's going to be a long drawn out process. So, my concern is, what's going to happen to some of the important heritage structures within the downtown core. And and what will the task force do that the HCD wouldn't have done, in one, blanket step, so to speak.
Yeah, I think.
Do you have any other questions, comments at this point? Oh, was that Andrew's hand went up?
Mhm.
Andrew, take it away.
Just my other question is in terms of timing, we're not that far away from the next municipal election and, to organize, convene this committee and then have it do its work and make recommendations. At what point do those recommendations come in and who do they apply to? Will they carry over to the next council? I don't know how.
Another good point, yeah. Rachel.
Perhaps I'm getting ahead of the things or I'm taking an extra step here, but is there any kind of idea what kind of recommendations the task force would make beyond, what the recommendations that were in the study? I know the whole point of the task force is to investigate these options, but do we have any sense of what these options are or what these possibilities are? If we're not going ahead with any of the proposed districts, would they be individual designations? We're a little bit, I guess, limited to what we can do. So I think I'm just curious about what role the task force would actually play.
Lauren.
And just through the chair, I think that's something that we're in the process of trying to determine as well. I know that the Stantec report did include a lot of other options, and I think just to more fully explore those options and why they do or don't meet the requirements of the area and of the community, I think that'll be part of it. I know that Part 4 designations are one thing that we're going to be moving forward with anyway. We always had this kind of plan in mind where if the downtown HC didn't go forward, we would shift our prioritization strategy, which is what we're going to be doing without the task force. And then looking at all of the other options presented in the HCD study. I know that they don't do the same thing as an HCD or as listing, but I think fully exploring that and going to council with that exploration, I think will be useful. And like I said, we are still determining exactly what the goals and outcome of the task force are. But it is something that we're working on and considering. Yeah.
And maybe I'll jump in for a second as well, through the chair. Like Lauren and I, our job is going to be to educate as part of this task force because based on what the composition will be, we imagine there might be some new faces and new voices at the table who might not be as aware of, what we're up against in terms of timelines and Bill 23 and kind of getting them up to speed on why did this happen in the first place? Why did we pursue this route? Because even though we've tried our best to share that over the last year and a half, to some people it's not always clear exactly why we're going this route or what the challenges are with doing individual designations and how that might not work properly for a street like St. Paul Street and stuff like that. So our role really is to facilitate and help educate and kind of make sure everybody understands what the issues are. And then, the task force will have to decide kind of where to take that information, right? So we can help facilitate and try to educate and everything, but ultimately it's the task force that'll make a recommendation to council. And we'll do our best to let them know what the issues are and everything that we've heard over the last year and a half.
And just to follow up with what you're saying, James, there's that column by Brian Marshall in today's Lake Reporter, and he doesn't pull any punches. He outlines very clearly, some of those same concerns, and And it's a good summation of things. Lorraine, you have a question.
Lauren, you were talking about the purpose of the task force. And one of the things that really struck me when I was listening to the July session, council session, was that one of the ideas expressed by Councillor Kushner, at least, was that the task force would be an opportunity to bring people together after a divisive issue. He mentioned that it's not anywhere in the motion, but he specifically said that he hoped that the task force would do that. And I think another counselor expressed that as well.
Lauren?
And I guess through the chair, and I think that is one of the goals of the task force, is to get a variety of voices with a variety of experiences and technical expertise to at least part of it is going to be talking about community concerns and trying to understand those community concerns from multiple perspectives, including a heritage perspective, but also from those perspectives. So I think there's that opportunity. Yeah.
So this is going to be uh, considered in September, then presumably the task force would be meeting shortly thereafter, maybe starting in October, or do we have any idea about that?
And
Yep.
through the chair, James and I have been talking about this and how quickly we can have things lined up, how fast we can having everything prepared to go forward with reaching out to the public to get members of the public lined up to be on the task force and speeding that up as quickly as possible. I think James, we're talking about like within a couple of weeks or at least under a month having that first meeting, if possible. But the ideal would be to move it forward, as quickly as is reasonable and feasible, so that we can have that feedback and to council as soon as possible. Yeah.
And even when the task force is established, would the subcommittee of the Heritage Committee still be doing its work on individual designations, even though the task force is going to be meeting? So they're going to be sort of, working in parallel.
Yeah, they would be working in parallel and really the designation subcommittee has its own terms of reference. It has its own goals, and that has always been designations, and so that will move ahead as normal. We're going to change our prioritization strategy, but we'll just continue with that work and maybe even more. Especially now that we've gained momentum with designations, hopefully be able to address as many as we can before the 2026 deadline.
Don't see any other questions at this point, so I don't know if you want to move ahead with your presentation, or was that it?
I'll move ahead. Yeah, I just took a little pause. Yeah. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit already. Um, but as I mentioned, we always had this plan that if the HCD didn't move forward, that we'd have to shift to Part 4 designations. And because we knew that was a possibility, we did ask the consultants to put together a list of high priority buildings from the list of contributing buildings in the downtown HCD study area that would be excellent candidates for Part 4 designation. So we are shifting at this time towards pursuing or researching Part 4 designation for those properties um, because of, council's focus on owner consent or owner participation. Our first step will be to reach out to those property owners to determine interest and support for Part 4 designation, mostly because we want to make sure that the limited amount of resources that we have are put towards Part 4 designations that have a high chance of success. So yeah, we're pivoting towards pursuing those port four designations. The list that was provided to us has is 39 high potential properties, all in the downtown HCD study area. They're not all in one specific sub area. They're throughout the whole study area. We will be having discussions about whether we want to pursue designations in one specific study area or sub area. St. Paul, depending on I think the interests of the committee. We'll have that discussion at the subcommittee level. Um, or if we just want to proceed with, whatever owners are keenest and most support of their designation and research. That's something that is yet to be determined. But we will prepare a phased work plan for that research, the development of the evaluation under 906 and development of statement of cultural heritage values or interests, including and doing that owner outreach. Um, uh, you know, Designation, although time consuming, will allow us to protect some heritage buildings. And I think that, we have this deadline of 20 at the end of 2026, but that, like James, we've talked about this. It doesn't mean that there's going to be bulldozers that day, like January 1st. We will have be able to continue to work on those prioritized buildings past that point. And yeah, you know, I hopefully be able to prevent the loss of anything truly, really significant. Um, so right now we're currently working on putting together those owner outreach letters. I'm working with the designation subcommittee to kind of flesh out that list of 39 high potential properties. There are a couple more that people would like to see added. And then we're going to send out those letters soon, see what kind of response we get. And we do anticipate that all the Part 4 designation work, as we mentioned before, will be integrated with strategies that are developed by the Downtown Heritage Task Force, on a kind of ongoing basis. I think that's it for my presentation. So if anyone has any conversation, questions, concerns, additions to the conversation.
Could I add a couple points, Lauren, if you don't
Oh
mind?
yeah, go for it. Yeah, please.
So through the chair, yeah, I kind of, as Lauren was speaking, I had three things that came to mind, and it's stuff that Lauren and I have talked about a fair bit. It's as much as January 1st is coming, we can see it coming and whatnot. January 1st of 2027, we don't expect, there's going to be wrecking balls just everywhere downtown immediately after that. So I try to remind myself of that as much as there is that deadline, um, it's a deadline from a legislative perspective. It's not a deadline from the work perspective. So we can
Yeah.
still designate properties beyond that point. There's just a little more risk to it, but it doesn't mean that the risk is severe. If we were to catch wind of certain properties that are at risk, we would obviously, make sure that they were dealt with appropriately and as quickly as possible as well. So, the other thing, and I chatted with Brian and Andrew about this as part of their role in the designation subcommittee. The nice thing about the downtown is, unlike some of the properties that are outside of the downtown, there's a lot of information already written about a lot of these properties. I'm thinking, when we designated the synagogue last year, Howard had already written a whole book about that property. So it made our research a lot easier to do. Um, trying to dig into the nitty gritty of some of these properties that are just, regular old residential properties on Elizabeth Street, right? Like where they've never had anything written about them before and you're having to start from scratch. That's a lot more time consuming. Some of these properties have, big histories that have already been written, and we'll be able to tap into those a lot easier. And Brian could probably speak to this, but the time to put in to do the research is really the time that takes up the most. Sorry, it takes up the most of the time when it comes to doing the evaluation. So if you can kind of cut that down a little bit, that helps us out quite a bit as well. We're going to be sending out these letters. Maybe we'll find out from some people that they really want their property designated, in which case that's some low-hanging fruit. And we can tackle those immediately and kind of take the path of least resistance with some properties. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was, next summer, potentially we might be able to tap into, see if we can get a student involved. the Young Canada Works program. I know Andrew has experience with that, and I was chatting with them, we were chatting with them the other day about it. They get good students at the Brown Homestead to come and do work with them. That's something we might be able to tap into as well. And so it's something that I'll bring up to senior people here to see if we can get the budget available to bring in a student next summer. And hopefully, even if they're able to tackle 3 or 4 more properties, that's great, right? So every little bit helps. So yeah, but that's all I want to add.
My concern is not so much the wrecking ball issue, but one of matches being dropped.
Hmm.
It wouldn't be the first time it's happened in the city. Yeah, and maybe with doing some of the research instead of doing really in-depth research. I'm speaking on about me. That maybe I should do a Reader's Digest condensed version on some of the downtown buildings. So instead of taking, because usually when I write up my reports, I usually spend about a good 40-50 hours on them. So instead of taking that amount of time, maybe I should just do a more streamlined version of things, just to try and expedite these properties along.
Yeah, and we certainly, sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
All right, you good. I was
I
just
was just
like,
gonna
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say Brian, you're very thorough with your work, but other municipalities and other consultants aren't as thorough, and we really just have to meet the criteria for 906. So if we can, you know, with less information be able to prove that, then I think that's sufficient. You know,
Yeah.
but Lauren, I don't know if that's what you were gonna say, but sorry.
Yeah, well, I know. I know that coming from a consulting background, if we're given 5 hours or 8 hours to do property research, that's all we're given, and so there are ways to make sure that you identify the significant historical owners and identify what makes a property historically significant in a shorter amount of time, and that you can. I think I made this comparison is like you can either spend, a day or a week or 3 months researching one property to varying, depths. And I think that there are efficiencies if we're looking at, establishing the historical value of a property. Yeah.
As much as it feels like my heart is being ripped out by doing that, but
It's
I guess
awful.
it's what we have to
I know.
do. Andrew, you have a question?
Around that issue, I think maybe having a bit of a checklist that we could work from and say, hey, here's what we need for these purposes would be helpful as a guideline. At the same time, it's the time to do the deeper research is when you're in the thick of it, and having to go back again and do it later is hard. And I know for me, part of it too is some of the ones that research where I've gone a little beyond what's necessary is because if there's a real question as to whether they are going to be designated, I feel like the research is the preservation that can be done. So being a little more comprehensive, and then at least the record exists if the designation doesn't happen. So it is I understand what you're saying, Brian, where it sort of tears your heart out a little bit. It's hard to think of approaching it that way, but there is merit to that, especially under the current conditions. So, but sorry, just to my first point, which was starting with defining, hey, what do we actually need for this purpose would be helpful.
And I suppose it's going to depend too on each individual building. I mean, there's some of them, we can look at them and say like, hey, this is a much more significant structure than this one. So, you're going to naturally spend more time on the more important buildings, and then maybe do the scaled back stuff on the ones that are slightly less important. Okay. Any other? Oh, Robert, you've got a.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I hate to do it, but throw another caveat into this. You mentioned about the election coming next fall. As I recall, the current iteration of our committee will disband probably a few months before that, or at least a number of weeks before that election comes up. And it seems to me that the new iteration of the committee would probably take a few months after that before it's set. So we could be looking at a lag without the Heritage Advisory Committee for a good, guessing 2 to 4 months before a new one is in place, which would take us into early 2027. So just something to be aware of to make it more difficult to try and get some of this done in a short period of time.
I think
Well, presumably after an election, I guess we would still continue to meet until the end of that year.
yeah,
So
you
I
chair.
guess
I think
Is that how it worked
I guess, so I
4
guess
years
we could
ago?
still.
I'm trying to remember how it worked 4 years ago, but it seems to me there was quite a lag in there.
so. Through the chair, 4 years ago, we had two committees at the time, right? So we had the permit committee and we had the regular heritage committee. The heritage committee stopped meeting because there wasn't really a legislative need for them at the time to keep going. But the permit committee still met
Right.
monthly because they had to deal with some permit stuff. We don't deal with as many permits nowadays because we've changed kind of some of the rules around that. But, permits do come up, and so we do kind of need a committee to
Good
deal with
point.
those. And so I think there's probably still a rationale to keep the committee around for, during that period. We'll talk to our clerk's department and find out exactly how that might work. But I could see that being a reason for us to still meet and then still be able to, push through designations through the committee up to the up to council. But yeah, we'll reach out to clerks and find that out. You know, even though it's still like a year away, that it's not, it's only a year away, right? So we can see what the plan is there and make sure that they're aware of our concerns and the concerns of this group too.
Fair enough. Thank you for your help.
Yep.
And no matter what happens, I mean, I'm sure there's still going to be some continuity from this committee, members that are going to, carry on forward onto the next one. So it's not as if there's going to be a complete change of volunteers and nobody from this committee is going to be on the new one. So we'll still be able to move on. We have experience behind us. Okay, so if there are no further questions or comments, then I guess we need to have a motion to receive the update from Lauren. Anybody want to? Oh, I saw Holly and Rachel's hands go up at the same time, so you'll have to fight amongst yourselves. How about if we have Rachel make the motion? And Holly can second it. That way there's no quarrel. So all in favor? Done. Okay, item 7.2, which is the Part 4 designation, next steps for 3 Elizabeth Street and 143 to 153 St. Paul Crescent. Lauren, you're going to lead us through this?
Yeah, this is just a short update, but also to kind of illustrate the designation process and what that's going to look like going forward as we start to bring in some of these properties that we've been working on at the designation subcommittee level. Let me just poop. So I just wanted to go through the timeline so everyone is aware and also to kind of get a sense of what this is going to look like. So the intent is to go to council at the September 9th meeting with reports for both these properties. At this time, council will vote to either support designation or not support designation. Do anticipate they will support designation because of they're obviously properties that meet the requirements, and also there is owner consent and owner support. And at this time, council will vote to issue the notice of intention to designate. The notice of intention to designate will be issued publicly, served to the owner, the Ontario Heritage Trust, and published in a local newspaper. We hope to get that done almost immediately, but given a little week in here. just to get it in the newspaper and get it publicized. Then there's then a 30-day objection period where someone can object to the designation. So that would go approximately to the middle of September, is the period during which written objections can be submitted. If there are no objections received, the report can go to council to pass the designation bylaw. And that can happen anytime after October 16th. And then council must pass the designation bylaw within 120 days from the issue of the notice of intention to designate. So before January, they'd have to issue that designation bylaw. So sometime between October 16th and January 14th, we would return to council with the final designation bylaw to be approved and ratified. Okay. Any questions, comments?
Not seeing any.
Well, that's it then.
Okay. So I guess we need a motion to receive your updates. Maria, thank you. And all in favor? Okay. Wow, this is going along quite well, isn't it? 7.3 miscellaneous items. Number one, the downtown block party update.
I have some photos to share. There you go. So I guess just very quickly, the downtown block party last Saturday. We had a booth. We were with a couple other city groups there, besides the environmental group, and so it was pretty nice. Very, very hot, and not as much of a turnout, I think, because of the incredible intense heat. We did have a really nice day. I had a really great day with everybody, and like had some really great conversations with members of the public, recalling their stories of St. Paul, and asking questions about history and heritage of St. Catharines. I said thanks to Brian, Lorraine, Holly, Adrian, Robert, and James, all of whom came and spent some time at the booth with me. Brian and Adrian ran two walking tours, and Lorraine and Holly and Robert sat at the booth with me and answered questions and engaged people, and it was pretty interesting. And then James as well. We came at the end and helped both talking to people while I was helping myself and helping me pack up. I really appreciate that too. I know that while sitting there, all these ideas for next year. We started talking about what we wanted to accomplish, and some ideas for even making next year even better as an outreach. So it was a nice day, very warm, but a very nice day. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add about their experience, but thank you again, especially Adrian and Brian and everybody. It was very nice.
The walking tour was, a lot of work to put that together, and just having three people to join it. I mean, that was like, was it worthwhile? But then, when you stop to think that, even three people who might have derived some enjoyment out of it and learned things that they didn't know, it was, I guess, still, worthwhile because of that. And of course, one person you omitted to thank for showing up was Christian.
Oh yes, yeah, I was going to add him too. Christian came for the walking tours, and it was very nice to see him as well. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Lorraine?
I was just going to add that the audience, when I was there first thing in the morning, was a lot of families, primarily families. I don't know if that continued throughout the rest of the day, but I know Lauren and I talked about our audience and thinking about what we could do for next year. And I think, we came up with some great ideas, I think, and probably, you had that conversation with other people as well. But I think that that's one thing we have to keep in mind. What we had was excellent. I mean, Lauren and James brought, great maps, and those picture postcards are always a big hit. I think we're thinking about how we could maybe encourage families to participate in the booth a little bit more. So just a next step.
Yeah. Just a point. Adrian printed out all those things for us too, and he specifically found out where our booth was and got pictures and articles of about the buildings around us. So that was pretty cool too. Yeah,
That's right. I should have thanked Adrian. Thank you,
Elsie.
Adrian, for
Yeah.
having, especially the Diana Suites. That was a big hit because we were right across from Diana Suites, and so people really could, look at the pictures and then look across. So thanks, Adrian. That was perfect.
Yeah, no problem. There's lots of creativity in the group, so I think we can definitely come up with a few interactives to add to the experience next time. And maybe, yeah, attract a few more of the audience when down the street we're competing with bubbles, skateboarding demonstrations, and I think bouncy castles.
And
So
popsicles. Don't forget popsicles.
we do need yeah, lots of ideas next year. So we'll have maybe if we talk a little bit earlier, we can come up with a couple more options and just keep adding to our downtown block party material resource bucket. It was a fun day, and again, thanks to Brian for doing those walking tours. Even for, as you mentioned, even for one person, it was worth it when one of the participants said, I usually just walk downtown and I look at my feet and I look at the sidewalk. I never look up. And after the tour, he said, "Well, look at how beautiful the buildings are. I'm going to look up." And then, and we said, make sure you tell your friends to look up as well. So that's even for one person, that's a great message that will hopefully get spread throughout part of the community.
Yeah, I think one thing they could get rid of was that air horn or whatever it was they kept blowing off every 30
No,
seconds.
the snowplow, because the kids, we were near the snowplow and the kids could honk the snowplow. So I don't know if we'll have any luck getting rid of the honking horn, but
Um, seeing we're talking about, things, like families and whatnot coming out for the block party, and because we're dealing with heritage, would there be the possibility to have the budget to do something like, let's say, printing out like a template, an outline of a couple of heritage buildings that kids could take them home and kind of, clip the image of the building off the cardboard and fold it and paste it together, and then they've got like a little bank or something that they could stick on top of their desk and see a heritage building, that kind of thing. The Province of Ontario Savings Office, when it's now Meridian Credit Union, part of Meridian, but they had things that you could do like that, a little paper cutout of one of their branches and turn it into a bank. And a few years ago, I think it was Nancy Cameron, did something similar. It was a cutout of a lock of the first Welland Canal. You could clip it out and glue it together and make little models. So maybe something like that is something we could do for the kids. Rachel.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, like a craft table and freezies. I mean, that it's really easy, just like a cooler full of little freezies, hand them out, and then some kind of craft table where kids can color. We'll put up a picture of a, maybe easy-ish to draw, like building, or we can even draw the outline on a sheet of paper, bunch of crayons, bunch of popsicle sticks and glue. Kids will adapt. They're pretty good about that kind of thing. But I along the same lines, yes, like I think a craft table is a great idea.
And then in about 15 or 20 years, we can recruit them for the Heritage Committee. You took our popsicle, now you owe us.
I think what we'll also do is we'll debrief with the downtown BAA folks just to see if the issues because if we had trouble getting people to come to our booth, like was this a problem across was everybody having the same issue, or what was maybe different this time around, and Yeah, because I last year I remember it was promoted a lot, I think, and this year I don't remember seeing it quite as much as I did last year, but that doesn't mean that, it wasn't. I just didn't notice it as much. So, but it also could have just been the heat, right? Because it was pretty bad that day. So there's lots of different variables that go into it. But we'll debrief with them and see if there's something that we can do differently next year to help us out as well. But I think these ideas are great. I can only get better, I think. So, which is great.
And who I felt sorry for, I think, are all the downtown restaurant owners and pizza bakers and stuff who probably, ordered tons of extra food, did lots of preparation, anticipating crowds coming in, and then there was like nobody. So, Lorraine, you've got a
I
question,
just
comment?
jump on James's point about promotion. I was wondering if we could somehow or other promote your tours, Brian. I did have a couple with two children who said, oh, they weren't, when I mentioned the possibility of a tour, said, oh, they weren't really ready for that or prepared for that. And they were all dressed up with, high heel shoes and different things on and not hats and sunscreen. And they said if they would have known, perhaps they would have joined. So that's something to think about as well. Could we have promoted it? I don't know if we could or not. Um, but something to think about.
Yeah.
Right. Well, another possibility if we wanted to do, downtown tours is to just, hold them at other days, other times, not necessarily corresponding with the block party. We've done that. We've done that in the past. We've had, uh, teachers from the collegiate who wanted to have a walking tour. So I was dragging a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds around the downtown, trying to hold their interest, and I did more or less successfully. But Lauren.
I think we had those conversations too. We should definitely at the very least have a board up that says walking tours at 11 and 1, so that everyone passing by would know they're walking tours at 11 and 1. And also possibly putting things on like Eventbrite or on the city's communication website, so that they're prepared. But I know we had a lot of other conversations about how like midday on a hot summer day is not the best time for anybody to be going on a walking tour, and that, like you said, Brian, other times more in the evening or more in the spring or the fall might be more appropriate if we're doing that kind of outreach. So all of those things are good ideas. Yeah.
I mean, it was still, quite a contrast because I mean, the year before I had like, 40 people, and then this time around three. And
Adrian,
other walking tours that I did in the past also had, good numbers.
I was curious about Adrian and what his numbers are usually like for his downtown tours.
We're sold out on all of our walking tours. We keep the group small, so it's 15 per, just because, in some spot we don't have the unless it's during an event like that, we can't uh, have a large group spill out onto the road. Because the road is not closed during our downtown walking tours. We also keep it small for just like enjoyment. It's really hard to hear and see and that kind of thing. So we keep them to 15 for that reason. But uh, when Brian and I were talking about the 40, it was a lot easier with people being able to spill out onto the street. So that per se wouldn't be a problem. But just listening to some of the comments, I think Lauren and James are not generally doing programming as part of their daily work. And so, part of the intention of my offering support from our end was to help with some of that. And so I think we can offer further assistance with some of these activities and things fairly easily from our perspective. It just didn't end up on our program calendar early enough for more staff to be involved or for us to be a little bit more offer something a little bit bigger. But with some of these ideas, I think we can pull some budget and come up with a couple more activities and promotion, and we can bring our sign and maybe bring a bigger tent. We have a 10 by 20 as well. So uh, if we want to go bigger, we can. So that, and I don't think that will be a challenge. It's just what we want to do and what we can support with the three staff and then all of our volunteers. So something to think about. And then when it comes up again, probably late spring next year, we should start thinking about what those offerings would be.
Thanks. Holly.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I just think also would be really neat is if you could involve almost like have it like an antique roadshow kind of style where people would come and brag about their home. Like, do you have an old home in St. Catharines? Do you have any pictures to share with the Heritage Committee and the Heritage team that are there on site today at the museum? And then they could bring some pictures and almost make it into like a fun event.
Yeah,
Or
putting it up on a bulletin board for folks, or doing a social media thing as well could be fun. And I think that reminded me of promotion as well. We didn't, because it wasn't really a part of our offering. I think we only shared it once or twice that it was happening, and it's been pretty busy here as well. So we had to fit it in with a bunch of, the shoe unveiling and Christmas in July and all that stuff happening at the same time. So we could offer a little bit more promotion on our end as well, which is a bit closer to our core audience, for example, for a walking tour with Brian, or something like that. The heritage audience that we could help to get the word out specifically about our activities and not just the general block party.
Could one potentially identify a couple of kind of cool stories that might have happened in the downtown core? And as we're doing a little walking tour, maybe suddenly have William Hamilton Merritt in costume spring out from one of the alleyways or something and give a little story about something. And
Not if it's 30 degrees.
all that.
The downtown and I have talked about a downtown spirit walk for a long time, and we did do a version of that for In the Soil about 10 years ago, when we did History in Sight live, and we had some of those pictures come to life with actors. So certainly that's definitely possible, and we have a core group of volunteers who can take on that work and would love to do that. I don't know about a fully dressed William Hamilton Merritt because of the heat, but perhaps a mid 20th century person in more modern street clothes would be a good choice. But or if William Hamilton Merritt had a swimsuit or something, a summer outfit that wasn't too hot, that would be definitely possible. It's hard to coordinate, but it's not impossible. So that's something that we can consider, especially if we want to keep going with the block party. Maybe it's a 2027 idea or 2028 idea, so we keep adding to the offering as we go along.
No, because I'm thinking, there's a wonderful poem. I think it was written by John Blair, and he's talking about the ghost of Queen Street. And apparently there was some person, dressing up in like a white sheet on Queen Street near St. Paul, scaring the bejeebers out of people in the downtown core in the 1860s and 1870s. And maybe we could have, just, hey, what could be easier than a white sheet draped over somebody, and have them step out and do a little spiel about, I'm the ghost of Queen Street. I mean, that would be kind of a cool thing. But Lorraine, your hand is up.
I know you probably want to move on from this, but I just want to say I don't want to lose Holly's idea, because I had several people come over to me and tell me about their house and where they had lived in the downtown. So there were a lot of people who wanted to share stories of their, lives in the downtown area. So I think, yeah, they think that might work.
Right. These are all things we can discuss between now and next year. Okay, so if there's nothing more about the downtown block party, then I guess moving on to the oil fountain plaque installation.
Hi. Just wanted to show some quick pictures of the oil fountain plaque and have a quick discussion about, because it's installed. The restoration work on the oil fountain itself isn't complete yet and is anticipated, I think, this second or third week of August. But I wanted to, show you what has been completed to date, and also have a little bit of conversation about what if there's any interest in meeting up for an unveiling or an event around that at the committee level once that restoration is complete, I guess. So we got here. So there it is. There's the tourism plaque, and there's our plaque right there. And then here's the oil fountain, which is still being restored. I know that things are ready. It's just a question of actually going out there and installing it. So
is the urn going to be ready to go at the same time?
yeah, that's the second or third week of August it will be installed, and so we will probably get together sometime after that to have the official unveiling of the plaque. Even though it's up there, it's interesting that I was scheduling it with Fonse, which is the company that does the installation, and I emailing back and forth like, okay, how about the third week of August, because that's when the restoration work is going to be done. And then the next email I got was, oh, we installed it, and so it's already installed. But yeah.
Something like this, it seems like it would be a no-brainer to involve the St. Catherine's Historical Society
Oh yeah, for their geranium. Yeah.
for the geranium thing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
late to put a live geranium up, but I mean, maybe they might want to, plant an artificial geranium up there for the rest of the to be up there for the rest of the season.
A symbolic geranium. That would be interesting. I like that idea. Yeah.
Well, they did a symbolic geranium. I think it was the last time they had a ceremony, just because you put a live geranium up there and they just withered and died every summer because of lack of water.
Yeah.
So, a silk one would probably be better. The trouble is, Dennis Gannon is probably away during the rest of the summer, so he won't be involved with it. But the other society members might want to take part.
Should I reach out to them then? Think that'd be a good idea. See
Um,
if they have an interest.
yeah, sure, if you want, or I could do it if you want.
That would be great because they know you. They know you. But or CC me on it and we could both be in on the conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And is that it for the oil fountain?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. If we have no questions about that or comments, and I guess we move on to the Neil Peart Commemorative Task Force.
Oh, and Lorraine has just left. Lorraine just had a question about the task force. And wanted to ask if Mark had any updates about the task force as the representative on the Neil Peart Commemorative Task Force. And I think Mark, do you have any how is the task force going?
Yeah, you know what? There hasn't been any updates for quite a while. It's been maybe a couple years actually, but the task force did select an artist, Morgan McDonald of the Newfoundland Bronze Foundry. Like, this is news from I think 2022 in November, and their task is to create a memorial at Lakeside Park beside the Neil Peart Pavilion. I sent you a link if you want to put that up to
Oh yeah.
the update. Like, it will feature two like larger than life bronze sculptures, one of Neil from his early years and the other from later in life, connected by like an interpretive pathway, celebrating his legacy. There's going to be like maybe like lyrics and stuff on. I don't know. I don't think that like they've narrowed down in details where lyrics would be, whether on the sculpture, on the ground, on the pathways, or anything like that. But the project depends on raising $1 million, with donations being accepted at stcatharines.ca/Neil Peart. So I'm not sure where it's at, but sooner $1 million is raised, the sooner we will see something. And in other news, Council also approved appointments to fill vacancies left by Councillor Carlos Garcia, and that counselor is Marty Mako or Mako. He's been appointed to the task force.
Yeah, I understood that the state of the finances that had been raised so far was only something like about $120,000.
Yeah, no, it was quite small.
Yeah.
Maybe that's still where it's at.
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
Yeah. Good luck with the fundraising.
Thanks.
I mean, you would have thought that, this statue would have been, up and in place by now, but Lorraine, do you have a question?
Sorry if I missed this when I was running to answer the door. Are there any fundraising events planned, Mark? I know that donations are tax deductible, right? Because they're through the city. But is there anything to raise large amounts of money, such as or larger amounts, such as an event?
Yeah, perhaps. I know that one single donation can't exceed more than $50,000 online anyway. I'm sure in person it could be different. But I haven't heard of any fundraising events, but that's a good idea. I should bring that up.
Or my second idea or thought about it is could and I'm not advocating for this, but could the memorial be downscaled a bit so that would be a little less expensive than over $1 million?
Yeah, perhaps just one sculpture instead of the two. That's a good idea. Something to consider anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
If people, let's say they did make a donation and the statue never happens, is the money, does it get returned to the donor, or does it end up in a city slush fund someplace, or what happens with the funding?
Good question. I would hope that the money goes back, because I don't know what they would use it for if the intention was to fund a sculpture. I'll look into that. Good question. I don't know if there's a way or protocol that the city has already for that. I'm not sure.
Through the chair, Lauren and I can look into that. I imagine it would be returned, because I imagine some people donated specifically because they were fans of Rush or, for that specific project, and the idea that it might go somewhere else they might not be a fan of. But we can find out and we can let everybody know.
Thanks. Rachel?
Apologies if this has already been considered, Mark, but have any attempts been made to contact like Rush, not necessarily in terms of money, but perhaps in terms of promotion? Like even if they could put something on their Instagram pages or something like that. I mean, I think just a small post like that would reach a lot more than just within the city. Like there are lots of people who are fans of Neil Peart. Like when I said I was from St. Catharines to some people in Ottawa, they were like, "Oh, Neil Peart's from there." I'm like, "Okay." So I think like the tentacles extend, beyond. And like again, probably a long shot to like contact Rush, but even if it's just like an Instagram post or a Twitter post or something, that might go a long way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think this has just been a few years with not so much action. I think it needs to be, stoked again.
Lorraine, your hand is still up.
Oh, I just put it up again. Rachel, one time when I was in Texas at a conference and I was filling out a form about where I was from, St. Catharines, the person was so excited because they were a big Rush fan from Texas. So that was interesting. But I think I read it somewhere that there are more donations coming from outside the city than within the city. So
Yeah, absolutely. There is, yeah.
we need to think about what to do.
And Dave Duraco is still the chair of this committee?
I am.
Or has he stepped down?
I think I read that he was still.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll look into all of that as well.
I'll have to
I haven't
march a
heard of
block. I'll have to march a block over to Dave's place and tell him what's what. We went to public school together in high school together.
Cool.
Okay, so were there any other questions about the task force? If not, then I guess move on to item number 4, which is the general hospital archway.
Jane, go ahead. Okay, thanks, Brian. I'm sure we've all heard about the historic archway, and perhaps you've had a chance to drive by and see that it's no longer located on Queenston Street. It's kind of a sort of a dramatic loss when you go by. You're so used to having it there, but it is in the process of being relocated, and a brick mason and his team are responsible for the preparation of moving it and then reassembling it. And I had an opportunity to talk to one of the team members, and they were explaining to me the detailed process it took to label and photograph each piece. And they had many, many pieces that they had to put aside safely and pack up. But it sounded like it was a very detailed process, as you could imagine, to take it apart and then put it back together again at the new hospital on Fourth Avenue, the Murata Family Hospital. And I asked if they had heard where it was going. And they said it was going, and probably, and this might even be public knowledge, it probably is, that it's going to the Memory Garden. So the Memory Garden over on the west side of the hospital is where the historic arch is going to be relocated. And the Masons are ready to relocate it, but the Memorial Gardens aren't ready to receive it. That's the one that the Rotary Club is fundraising for. So I'm not sure, what's happening, or maybe they need to have some more work. I think that the plan is that in the spring that they will be, relocating it, rebuilding it, reassembling it, and going to be, I think, kind of an exciting process to be able to watch if we can. So I thought that you might be interested in that. I mean, it was the former nurse's entranceway. My mother has lots of stories about going in that doorway. I mean, she's 97, so she had lots of experience going in that doorway. So I've heard a lot about that my whole life. So I thought I'm happy that it's being relocated, and I'm sure everybody who loves heritage will be too.
Thanks, Lorraine. Yeah, it's nice that it's being moved. It's just too bad that it couldn't be
Mhm.
somehow incorporated into the whatever's going to happen at the Queenston Street site. It's got more significance if it was left
Right.
in situ, but at least it's not completely being, ending up as landfill.
Well, it's been 5 years of waiting for some kind of development at St. Catharines at the old site. So I think that's a worry as well. Will it happen? It's going to be rental units. That's the new plan, and hopefully it evolves. So yes, I think I would agree with you, Brian, that it would be better off at that site, but just not, don't have a lot of faith yet that that will actually carry through that plan.
So there were things in the old Fifield mansion, which was the doctor's office that was beside the old Hotel Dieu.
Hmm.
And there was a huge like 2-story stained glass window. It was absolutely gorgeous, and that was supposed to be dismantled and taken over to the new hospital. I don't know if that's ever been moved or not. Whether that just ended up being broken glass in landfill someplace, or if it's actually at the hospital.
I don't know. We could probably find out though.
Anyway, any questions for Lorraine about her update? No?
One thing I didn't mention was that I asked the Brick Mason team if they could give me some pictures that I could share with you. So at some future date, I might be able to have some pictures of sort of that process. Someone might be interested in that.
It's always good to chronicle stuff like that too for the historical record. Okay, and Lauren, you had a miscellaneous item that you wanted to talk about?
Oh yeah, I think just I know we've been having this conversation on and off for the past couple of months, but I think especially now that we're getting to the well, getting through summer, to the other side of summer, and also, considering the shift in some of the committee's focus from on designations to downtown, and also just, feedback from the committee generally. I think I'm going to be kind of more intentionally pursuing the this idea of having a hack like educational retreat or team building retreat or meeting at a in-person meeting for us in order to discuss some of the things about the committee that people have been like talking about often. The idea of, either having in-person or not in-person meetings going forward, the idea of, somebody brought up the possibility of changing the meeting time to be more convenient for people or and a couple of other things. And I know that there's a great interest in people just seeing each other in person and having those in-person conversations. And so I think that, and then I know too, we were talking about the possibility of holding it at the museum and getting a tour of the museum and seeing some of the research opportunities and materials at the museum, to help out again with that individual designations process. And so I think, I mean, we can open this up to discussion, but I'd like to send out an email with a couple of dates for people to see people's availability to have an in-person meeting. I think it would be either we'll look at like a formal meeting, we'll post an agenda and everything like that, and then we can get together in person and have those conversations. I don't know. There's a lot of nodding heads. I think a lot of people are very interested in getting together and having a conversation in person. And I think that it would be a good opportunity for us to both, learn more about some of the materials and but what the museum has that can help us in our work and research, and also to have those conversations as a committee.
Okay. Any questions about that? Comments? Rachel?
I just think it's a great idea. I agree. I was one of the people nodding along. It's always nice to meet in person. I'm relatively new to the committee, so of course everybody is new to me, and it's really nice when I see people at various events and get to actually meet people in person. So I think it's a great idea, Lauren.
Anything else from anyone? Lorraine?
I want to ask Lauren a question about a previous thing that we left that I'm not quite sure I have the final piece of information for. Is that okay now? Okay.
Mm.
So Lauren, it sounds like the oil fountain might be before our next meeting. Did you throw out any dates for that? For the possibility, you said mid-August, but for the possibility of having that thing? And if it's before the next meeting, we won't necessarily know about it.
That's a good point. What I can do is when I know that the work is either underway or complete, I can send out an email to everyone, or we can even just have an update at our next meeting. And also in the meantime, I think Brian's going to reach out to the Historical Society and talk about the possibility of an unveiling. I know that that's something that probably should happen closer to when it's installed, but the actual plaque has already been installed for a while, so I think having a formal event for it a month or so after it's completed, it wouldn't be that out of place. But if that's something that I'm open to suggestions, definitely. Um, if you if you want me to reach out sooner or to be more ambitious in setting up a little event to go take a look at the restoration work and the plaque, then I'm definitely open to that.
Is if you're talking about say a month or so after the work is done, we do have something called the Bourbon Wine Festival coming out.
Mm.
Could we possibly schedule some kind of an event to correspond with the Grape and Wine, because you're going to have a lot of people coming in to the downtown that perhaps would not normally be there. So you're killing two birds with one stone.
Interesting idea. Yeah.
I wouldn't like to see it happen, say, on the day of the parade or anything, though, Brian. The parking is so horrendous. So it has to be on a day where, you can easily get in and out of downtown as well
Yeah.
for
Maybe have red wine flowing out of the fountain as an inducement for people. Put your cup under the spout.
Let's vote on it. Red wine for the fountain.
instead of geraniums.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Symbolic. Yeah.
I guess my question was just going to be, if it's going to be before, we need to know somehow or other. If it's going to be after our next meeting, then I feel more confident that, I can probably, we could probably attend, right? Or we could make arrangements to attend. I kind of need a definitive, do you think it will be before and then you'll contact us by email, or is it going to be after? And then we can talk about it at our next meeting. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, we could definitely talk about it at our next meeting. Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be before. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about that? Should we have a motion to just receive all these updates? Does anybody want to make it? Mark? Thank you. And all in favor? Okay. Are we doing subcommittee updates today as well?
I was just going to go through the list with everyone because I don't think I've ever presented like anything in text, just so that the whole committee is aware of where the designation subcommittee is. Just very quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So for next steps for the designation subcommittee, so for 15 Welland and 2 Queenston, and 38 Geneva, for both these properties, the designation subcommittee has a draft statement prepared, staff was directed to reach out to the property owner to take next steps and have conversations with them. Once we have had those conversations, we'll be bringing those statements to the broader committee and making presentations to you to get direction on whether or not to want to proceed to council. For 1 Welland Avenue, 219 Merritt Street, and 260 Vine Street, we've been directed to proceed with preparing the statement of cultural, doing the 906s and preparing the statements, but also at the same time reaching out to the property owners. Again, I think to make sure that we have, or I think we're going to do a bunch of letters at once, but also to make sure that we have that owner involvement and consent early so that we can make sure we allocate our time and resources better. I've talked to Christian about this, but working together to put together those contact letters for all those property owners, and they should be sent out, relatively shortly. And then following the completion of the above, as we've discussed, we'll shift to addressing those downtown priority properties. So basically, these are the properties that are kind of like in the pipeline, and the intent is to finish up our work and our research with those properties and get them ready to come to the hack and ideally to be sent to council, and so that we can continue designating things while we shift into addressing the downtown priority properties. Yeah, any questions?
Lorraine.
So the list that you have in front of us, has that been started already in terms of the designation committee researching them?
Yeah, all of them are at a fairly advanced stage in the research, and either they're ready to come to committee and for you guys to make a decision or a recommendation for council, or it's just a question of me putting together a 906 evaluation and a statement, but the research is already complete. And those are on my list for this next month's designation subcommittee. But kind of concurrently to that, we're reaching out to all the property owners again, so that we can make sure that process happens as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
And there again, these are a good example when we talk about the downtown HCD and what's going to happen with the work that we're doing there. These are, individual designations that we've been working on since what, way last year, sometime last fall when we started on them. So it is a time-consuming process. Okay. Any other questions for Lauren about her presentation? Oh, Andrew.
Just a question about the Welland Avenue property. There was sort of the scope of that report was expanded to include a few other properties that were also worthy of designation. Are they being considered at this point? We haven't really talked about it.
We haven't really talked about it, but I think it's a good idea to add them to our list of properties because they all clearly have potential, and they haven't been prioritized through our prioritization process. But it might be worthwhile, and I'll have more conversations about this with the designation subcommittee, but it might be worthwhile just reaching out to those property owners and seeing if there's any interest from them in Part 4 designation, because if we can proceed with that work, and it's the majority of the research is done, then again, it's like James says, the low-hanging fruit, then we could pursue that. I think it would be, I don't think there's any harm in reaching out to property owners. So I think that's something we should definitely look into. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew's done such a good job on the research for it. It would be a shame to, have it just go to waste.
Yeah, it's an incredible document, and yeah, I think it would make things fairly easy for those properties, if we get to go ahead.
So I guess maybe we should have a motion to receive the updates about the subcommittee. Robert, thank you. And all in favor? Okay. Items of correspondence. I don't think we have any. So Rachel?
Sorry, I didn't mention this earlier, but I just wanted to say, especially because Adrian is on the call, that I attended the unveiling of the famine sculpture. And that was really nice. It was really well done. We got a little shout out, which was nice. I went with my dad, who is himself an Irish immigrant, and he really appreciated it. There was some songs as well as short snippets of stories. So, and it was nice to see like our committee and the concrete pad is the concrete pad, but it's nice to know we played a part in it. So it was good to be there. Apologies for not being on the agenda earlier, and thank you for the time to mention that. And thanks, Adrian, and your staff for the work.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so the date of our next meeting then is going to be on August the 28th. Same bat time, same bat station, 2:30. So I guess we now need a motion to adjourn or to terminate, whichever terminology you wish to use. Oh, I'll make the motion to terminate. So all in favor? Okay. Robert, did you have a question or are you just waving?
No, I'm waving, just concurring.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's 3:54 according to the clock on the wall here. So thank you everybody for taking part in the meeting today, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Thanks all. See
Thank
you
you,
later.
everyone. It was
Thanks,
nice
everyone.
seeing you. Yep. Thanks again.
Ciao.
Bye.